Hi everyone, welcome to Unfiltered. I'm Ken Minster, and I'll be sitting down with Nevada's Republican state legislators to provide an unfiltered view of their work in the 81st legislative session in Carson City. In this interview, I speak with Tom Roberts, Assemblyman for Nevada's 13th District and our co-deputy minority leader. Tom is a focused, dedicated public servant, fighting hard to keep Nevadans safe and prosperous. He's also a history buff and a newly minted grandpa. Enjoy. First thing is, for those that might not know you, Assemblyman Roberts, is you can tell us a little bit about your family and how they're doing right now. Pandemics, affects everybody. Tell us a little about them, how y'all are coping.
Well, so, my family is, we're originally from the military. My wife and I we moved here in 91, so we've been here 30 years. I got out of the military and joined Metro. She stayed in the military a little longer, actually still works for the United States Air Force out at Nellis. My boys, my oldest is 26. He is a Metro police officer, just had a new baby. And my other son just graduated UNLV. He was in the restaurant industry. He's an entrepreneur, so he was hit a little early, but my youngest has figured out a way to adapt, and he's transitioned to online clothing sales and a variety of things, and so he's doing some stuff that way. But we're surviving. We're doing well, and we're healthy. We're fortunate enough to still have income coming in, and we're much better off than a lot of other Nevadans.
So you're a new grandpa then?
Yeah, a couple months.
Okay, so in a couple months. So he hasn't had the kid yet, or he just did?
He just did, December 30th.
Oh my gosh!
Our first granddaughter. We've got to see her 2 weekends in a row when I've returned home.
Yeah.
And so, it's a true blessing.
That's awesome. My father-in-law's in the military, and becoming a grandpa has made him very soft. He'd never admit it, but becoming a grandpa is softening.
Well, I was a cop for 34 years, right? My son is following in my footsteps, one there, and so there's definitely a soft spot for kids.
Well, tell me, and I saw in your bio that you're a police officer and have been for a very long time. What brought you to run for office, and where do you represent? Where's your district?
Well, first of all, my district is Assembly District 13. It's in the northwest portion of Las Vegas. The boundaries are roughly Ann Road to the south, US 95 to the west, Decatur to the east, and it stops at the end of the town. I've lived in that district for the last 26 years, or 24 years, sorry. Almost 24 years in that district. Previously, I lived in North Las Vegas. So how I became involved in this is when I was a police lieutenant under Sheriff Doug Gillespie. I was a legislative liaison for the department. I spent 2 legislative sessions here in Carson City in 07 and 09, and a smattering of special sessions. I did some government work, some legislative liaison work with the city and the county down in southern Nevada, City, Las Vegas, the county, and did some things at the federal level with major police organizations in policy and moving policy and making change, for our community. Interested me then, and I thought it was something I might be able to do later in life if I retired. And so an opportunity presented itself with a vacant seat a couple of years ago, and so I ran for it, and here I am. I'm on my second term.
People go to Carson City, and they, never want to go back. So I applaud you for wanting to, go back and return there. And Carson City is a wonderful place, but the legislature, less so. But that's great. That's very cool. I appreciate your service to Nevada, and it's great that you're a longtime Nevadan. So I'm a second generation, and there's not a lot of us. A lot of people are transplants, and 26 years, you're basically native at that point. So that is very cool.
Almost. I mean, at least my 2 kids are native Nevadans, and my grandchild is. So I guess we outnumber each other now.
I was gonna say that counts. Yeah. The Assembly just released their list of priorities. They had the cold conference, press conference outside. I have read through the document, and I love it. I love that we have this concise list of sort of what you're doing, and it's solid. how are you planning in this weird sort of pandemic legislature right now? What are you doing to get some of those items passed and get things done?
Well, so each one of those priorities, there are bills that our members have sponsored, to move the legislation in the direction that we believe it should be. Even though we're in a minority, we're outnumbered by the majority party, the Democrats. But last session and this session, they do work across the aisle, and I think a lot of our goals are common. We may not necessarily agree on how to get there, so we'll work as strategically as we can to get those things passed.
What's important to you on that list? I'm not talking as the Southern minority leader or whatever your title is, but what about you, Assemblyman Roberts? What do you want to see passed? Obviously all of it, but what do you want to see passed on that list?
Well, look, from a survival standpoint for Republicans in the state, election issues are a high priority. To fix some of the challenges that we saw in the last election. I think there were so many changes done to our election process and some missteps in some of the vote counting and a number of things. I just think people have a certain amount of mistrust, and I think there's some things that we can fix there. Secondly, what's really important is our economy, getting people back to work, getting kids back into school, getting small businesses reopening and nonprofits and folks like that to where they can earn a living and stay in business, so that they can employ and make Nevada more prosperous.
It is. It's absolutely crucial. It's difficult. I don't have any school-age children. I got a little 2-year-old, but some of my friends are dealing with school. They have school-age children from 17 years old to 4 years old and just about to go to kindergarten. Opening schools is something that's super important for me, and I don't know if there are assembly priorities to assembly bills to get that done, but that's for us down in Southern Nevada. It's economy crushing, it's life crushing right now, and I feel like reopening schools is such a big priority. Is that one of them, is to help get those schools reopened?
So yeah, I mean, from a budgetary standpoint, I'm on Ways and Means. I was on Interim Finance Committee. We allocated a significant amount of CARES Act money to assist schools getting back open so that they can do it safely and that teachers can be safe and kids can be safe. So I think that is moving forward. From a sports standpoint, I believe it's important that we get our kids back to playing sports and into interscholastic activities. I think there's some challenges with folks not listening to our parents and our student athletes. I have a bill to add parents to the NIAA board that oversees student athletics, and I have and to also add 2 student athletes to the advisory board, because currently right now it's all administrators, and I think that diversity on the board and that input would come a long way when they make decisions about closing sports or opening sports. That perspective is certainly helpful.
Oh, that's very cool. I did not know that there was not a parent representative or student athlete representative on that.
I have a hearing on that this Thursday, matter of fact.
Wow. Okay. Well, I hope that passes. That's great. I feel like that's a great reform. What can we do? So, you've got your rank and file GOPers, right, that support, we're doing everything. How can we support you in Carson City right now? Is there bills to testify on? I don't know. Is there a petition I can say? What can we do to help the caucus right now and help you, get this stuff done?
Well, so, I mean, we, obviously you could go to our website, the Assembly Republican Caucus, and you can look at, you can sign up for a newsletter. We send out newsletters weekly on bills that are coming up, priority legislation that we have going forward. And if there's something that you like or dislike, even though you may not, live in my district, but whoever's district that you do live in, find out who your legislator is, email them and tell them your opinion on a certain piece of legislation. Because I believe that what side of the aisle you're on, our legislators or legislators here value the input from their constituents, and I think it goes a long way.
That's great. What I'll do is so I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen so that people can see the website, see where to sign up, so that they can sign up for that newsletter and know what's going on. And so that's great. We'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll have the caucus send me that stuff, and I'll get it out to my followers and do my best to keep them in the loop for some of these crucial bills. When it comes to you being a police officer, are there any criminal justice? I thought I saw that you're on Judiciary Committee. I hope that's not bad information, but is there any criminal justice centered bills that you're watching and you want to tell constituents about?
Well, so I'm not on Judiciary this time. I was last cycle. I'm on Ways and Means, the Budget Committee. But look, because of my background, that's an area of interest to me. I know there's some police reform bills that are going to be introduced that I'll be watching closely. Some criminal justice reform bills. Some are good, some are bad. When those finally hit and we see what those are, I'll be watching those. Because I believe we need to support our law enforcement community, and first responders. Are we open to change, or police are open to change? I believe so, but I think we need to do things incrementally and not undermine their ability to keep us safe.
When it comes to getting excited, you're a representative of us. You're in the assembly leadership. It was 2020 was a tough year for a lot of people. We lost the presidency, we lost the Senate, control of the Senate. What is there for Republicans in Nevada specifically to be excited about? Legislatively or electorally, like what should we be focusing on right now? What do we think that you guys are going to do for us up there right now?
Well, I don't believe the economic picture is with the federal aid that we've already gotten and some of the federal aid that is coming. I don't think it is as bleak as it was first let on. So with Republicans having at least a minority in both houses, we have the ability to stop any tax increases or fee increases. So, we're there for you on that. Outside of that, we don't have the numbers to stop a lot of the other issues, but I believe that the leverage we do have will give us a seat at the table on some of those other those other issues, and we'll be able to make some changes, for the better. Looking forward, the quicker you look at numbers are going down. We've invested some money in small businesses. In some of those programs, we're about to get schools open. If we can get this COVID cloud out from over the state, and we can get our convention business back up and our tourist volume back up, it'll certainly have a positive impact on Southern Nevada and the whole state as a whole.
No, that's wonderful, and that is something to be excited about. The fact that we're not in a super minority anymore, I think it's a big deal. And I talked about this in another interview, but I don't think regular Republicans understand that that's a bigger impact most of the time than what's going on in D.C. I feel like people don't focus on their state legislators enough.
Right. Well, politics is all local, right? And when Republicans were in control nationally, Democrats set out to win state houses, incrementally, and they've done a good job of that. They've flipped a few states to include Nevada, where we were pretty red, in 2015. We were fairly blue, the last two cycles, and this cycle we were able to claw back a few seats, and hopefully we can build on that momentum and pull out a few more seats the next midterm. I think what's important for Republicans is that we need to stop fighting amongst each other, find our common ground, and unite. Because the more we do that, the more we primary each other, the more we fight internally, is likely that we'll be able to pick up seats and get momentum in this state. Democrats out fundraises 10-1. And so the more money we're spending in primaries, the less money we have for general elections to beat Democrats in these close seats.
It's a huge issue you've touched on, of just the the waste of resources. I mean, we don't all have to agree with each other on as Republicans, we don't have to agree with each other on absolutely everything. But in a state like Nevada at this pivotal time, I feel like your message of unity that's what we need. We need to just help each other, and not hurt each other as much, because Democrats are united. I mean, they don't pull any punches. They've got a well-oiled machine, and we're trying to build that machine. I think
I think it's also important that independents are the fastest growing segment in our voter registration rolls. Right, people are disenfranchised with both parties, and so I think it's important that we talk about the good things of the Republican Party, that we're about a physically responsible government, about family values, about freedoms, and faith to some degree. And I believe that resonates with a lot of middle ground voters, and we need to get away from the things that drive people away. And, and so that's also a challenge for us as well.
The one thing I've noticed, and this will round us out here, is one thing I've noticed is opening schools and reopening the economy. I'm telling you, it's very bipartisan. We don't have to go in the far right or the weird realms around COVID, but I have found that people who are not political are like, I can't conduct business. We can talk about all the other issues and renaming the airport. My business is closed. My kids can't go to school. I can't go to work with my kids. And I found that is something that it crosses all the lines. It crosses, everybody wants that to be done. And reopening that economy is a high priority.
Well, and I also think that the dismal way that the unemployment claims were handled by the executive branch is bipartisan as well. I think people are frustrated with the inability for that to be done. They're frustrated with schools not being open. They're frustrated with business not being open, especially when you look at other states that are similarly situated, and and our numbers are no different. But I think finally we're starting to recognize that, and we're moving forward. School choice was always been a Republican issue, right? Is to give parents, a choice. And I guarantee you now that if, most parents wish that they had a choice and they weren't stuck with a closed school district, that they would go out and find a private institution, if they had the ability to do that. And the framework for that was completely stripped out in the last legislative session by the majority party. And so that option isn't even there to fund it anymore. So I think those are things that are going to resonate with these voters, and hopefully we can claw some of that back.
Opening up the economy again after during the pandemic is important to us, and so we appreciate you and the caucus fighting for that for us. So,
well, you're welcome. That's what we're here to do, and as represent our constituents and act in their well-being.
That's great. Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
It's an odd year for a legislature. We hope they open the building soon so that we can have our voices be heard up there as well. And so please, I'll have those links up so people can keep us. We can help keep people informed on what they can do, and keep all of us involved. If there's something you need our help on as Republicans, let us know, and we'll do our best to organize the troops and support you up there. And so, my last question for you, Tom, is just and I know you're focused on passing legislation, but I ask everyone of what books are you reading right now? When I don't know what your living arrangement is up there, if you're, in some apartment with 3 other legislators or whatever, but what are you reading at night? And, what are you focusing on outside of, reading bills?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I have on my nightstand at home is a book by David McCullough. It's about Teddy Roosevelt. He's one of my favorite. I'm a history kind of guy, and he's one of my favorite authors. Unfortunately, I have not really had the time to dive into those books. We run all day, and so every evening I spend the evening preparing for the next day, where we read budgets, we read bills, and we prepare for questions and for the following day, and that's pretty much the grind.
Yeah.
While you're up here. So it doesn't give you a lot of leisure time. On the flight, sometimes back and forth, you have some time, but it's not enough to get through a book.
No,
But
and these bills.
really, it's all legislative bills and budgets.
Line item after line item, Excel
Yeah.
Excel line. Well, that's the right answer. You're reading the bills, so that's what we want to hear. But I've got a McCullough book on Washington that's collecting dust in my nightstand. We watch too much TV, but he's incredible.
Yeah, well, I like his writing style. He's a good writer, and I've read 1776 and John Adams and Truman were all really good books. So hopefully this one is as good.
True, I didn't know he wrote on Truman. That's an interesting figure.
Yeah, I tell you what. That's if you've read John Adams, it's a book this thick. Truman is that thick. It is as good a book as John Adams.
Well, that's all I got for you. I appreciate that. We appreciate the work you're doing for us, Assemblyman, and let us know what else we can do to assist you during session.
Thank you for your time, and I appreciate everybody's support, and I hope to continue to get it.